Happy Halloween. I'm Travis. This is my yard. Come check it out. So this year, for early in the spring, I started thinking about what I wanted to do, and snakes was going to be the theme. And so I went to Indiana Jones and the snake pit right out in the Egyptian desert, but with the giant fir tree in the front yard. It's not conducive to desert. Sorry, white pine. Anyways, so I went on to jungle, and so we're doing jungle snakes, right? And well, if you got jungle, then you might as well do monkeys. And I'd seen one of my mentors on YouTube, Still Be Studios, do a version of a monkey. So I was like, oh, I can give that a try. And I really am pretty stoked about them. They turned out great. I made 6 of them, which is no small feat when you have to make more than one. It's not easy to keep motivated, for sure. And but yeah, so I got the monkeys are made out of EVA foam and fur and wire. So it's carved foam and painted, and then just a bit of sealing wire with fur wrapped around it, hot glued into place, and you can do whatever you want with them. They're pretty fantastic. And so got those done. Meant to make a whole bunch of snakes. Never quite got all of them done. Got one guy done. He's just carved EVA foam and a piece of pipe insulation. And but I did pick up this awesome snake at Home Depot and gave it a paint job and posed it and built this surround. And this is the back end of my display from last year, my witch's hut. And I've attached these pieces of foam. So this is a piece of foam, this is a piece of foam, these are all little pieces of foam, and that's a piece of foam, and then you sandwich them all up together, paint them all. And yeah, so I just carved out these little faces, attached them onto plates, attached the plates onto the arch, and it's pounded in with some fence posts wired in. And the back is a cattle panel and bamboo from the backyard. I always try to incorporate some yard thing in my display. And oftentimes I make some kind of creature out of bundles of bushes or something like that. And this year they ended up being my dwellings. Just a few little bits and pieces. I always like to stretch. Even though I've got the beef netting and stuff, I always like to stretch some spider web. So it's just something about it. You just keep pulling and you just keep pulling, and you can hide stuff in them and stuff. So there's all sorts of spiders and stuff hanging in here, and you know, make a little cocoon in the middle and whatever. It just helps flesh out the corners. And I don't know, it's not Halloween until I pull some spider web. So this gargoyle was sort of a last-minute ad. He was a foam and concrete and cloth attempt from a while ago, and he's not the best work, for sure. He's good for, you know, 3 layers back, but underneath the lights here, it works. I don't know, like, he didn't need to be great. So I cut up a couple of chunks of foam that I carved last year as part of the fireplace from the witch's hut, and made a little stand for him and put him in between these two and sort of filled out the fence. Usually the fence is over here, and I'm keeping everybody sort of away from the display, but I don't know, I felt like I was going to open it up this year and make everybody part of it. We didn't straw this, but apparently everybody walking's kind of strawed it anyways. The pine tree drops so many needles at this time of year that it kind of turns the whole yard sort of a golden color anyways. But we always bring in straw because the sidewalk has a bump in it, and there's some tree roots and whatever, and so you can really cover that kind of stuff up for the people coming through. One thing, you know, we really pride ourselves on, I think, is the amount of layers of different things. If you really look into it, you can find all sorts of little Easter eggs and things, right? Like Missy spent most of the day one Saturday putting bugs and stuff onto the arch. So there's like, you know, little bugs climbing out of skulls, and there's a spider eating a giant fly up there, and there's, you know, snakes crawling out of this skeleton butt, and, you know, things. Mom and Dad always used to do and still do a Halloween thing, even though we used to live out in the boonies, and there'd be 7 or 8 groups of kids that would come up, and but sometimes there'd be, you know, 20 or 30 of our friends hanging out as zombies in the backwoods or whatever, you know, and so I grew up with a lot of that, and Mom always used to make my costumes, and you know, won lots of costume kind of things, just cowardly lion, potato heads, and stuff like that, you know. And so she sends me stuff every once in a while, these little white mice and stuff that are around and tucked around. Those are all little bits and pieces that have come in the mail every once in a while, and you know, I score stuff after Halloween a lot of times on 50% off sale, and you know, lots of little weird skeletons and things. I don't even know if they're all up this year, but there's some fun things here and there. Yeah, all these little pieces. That last year I built the man-eating plant, and so I just kind of tucked him into the edge of the hut. Right, he was a little bit more predominant last year, but this year he's just a side player. It's cool. So thanks for coming out, checking out the yard, and checking out my art. And it's a fun way for me to connect to the neighborhood. As I get to put it up, the neighbors come by and say hi, and so I get to meet people that way and connect with. There's quite a few on our street and in the neighborhood that go all out for Halloween, and we've got a neighbor up the street that did Men in Black this year. I mean, great themes. So yeah, it's a good neighborhood to do it in, and thanks for checking it out with me. Have a good night. Happy Halloween.
That's a real deer skull we found in the woods. That's a piece of foam that I squirted out to make look like a slug. And a rubber snake from Amazon. And a plastic crow from probably Michael's or something.